I'm Dave McCrory, and this is setting up your own private microcloud in 30 minutes. So, a couple of things. First off, standard legal disclaimer. Wow, kind of a little echo here. Obviously, you can't hold me to any of this. We don't want this to affect the stock price, et cetera, right? So anyway, go ahead and read it. I'll give you a second, and then I'm going to move on. Okay, so what is a microcloud? A microcloud is a single virtual machine that has an entire cloud running inside of it. And what that really means is it's trying to provide you, in our definition, a platform as a service, an operating system, all of that all bundled into this single VM. And that VM can then be run using Fusion, Workstation, or Player. So this is what, if you decided to build your own microcloud, this is likely what you would want to do. You would want to take an Ubuntu image. That's what we have traditionally used for our image stuff, is Ubuntu. We then have the Cloud Foundry open source code. That includes application instances that'll let you fire up Rails, Spring, Java, Node, and actually the list is even larger than that, but this is due to space constraints. And on the services side, right now we have Redis, Mongo, MySQL. In the open source bits, we also have several other storage services. So there are directions for doing this. They're actually out there. You can create your Ubuntu VM. You can see I have the specs here. I'm not going to read you each individual spec from the presentation. As I said, you can get these directions online. You'll see some of the prerequisites as far as memory requirements, etc. You run this. You'll see the install Cloud Foundry setup script using Bash, and then you want to actually start the services. You see the VCAP down there at the bottom, the start services. And so then you'll want to create an SSH tunnel to the microcloud. And so you can see the commands I have here. Basically, depending on if you're using OS X Linux, you can just use SSH directly, or you can use PuTTY. So it is possible to set up an SSH tunnel in PuTTY. And what you're effectively doing is you're creating an alias DNS entry so that you can actually attach to the microcloud, because you don't have your own DNS service, or at least most people don't have their own DNS service set up locally. So this seems pretty complicated and painful, at least for the average person. This was, up until a few weeks ago, your only route for having your own microcloud. So there should be an easier way to do this, right? And so what we set out to do, one of our intentions was to have microcloud Foundry, which we announced a couple of weeks ago. And microcloud Foundry is a full Cloud Foundry instance in a VM that you can just download. So instead of having to go through all of those complicated steps yourself, which there's obviously risk that you're going to run into problems, we have pre-created, and we will continue to iterate and add capabilities to microcloud Foundry. And you can see the information URL. That is the entire Cloud Foundry stack in that single VM. These are the resource requirements that VM will use. You'll see a minimum of 1 gig of RAM, 8 gigs of disk space, internet connectivity. You can use Player, Fusion, Workstation, and you'll ultimately need a client, either the VMC command line tool, which the prerequisite for that is that you have to have Ruby working. We have directions and documentation on doing that. You can run Ruby on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So if you're using any standard OS that a normal person would, you have support for that. STS is the Spring flavor of the Eclipse IDE, so you could use that as well to actually access your microcloud. I have a personal preference for the command line because you can do lots of cool stuff with it. The STS side, though, is every bit as powerful, and it has some drag and drop things, so it's kind of whatever you prefer. You could also write your own. The VMC client, by the way, is open source as well. So that can be downloaded. You can look at the actual code. It's actually fairly readable, in fact. So the bad news is you need a Cloud Foundry account to use microcloud. And I'll explain why in a little bit, but you will need to go to cloudfoundry.com and get an account if you don't have one. If you already have one, then you're good to go. So there is a wait to get on Cloud Foundry. The good news is, because you're in this session, if you come up, we'll sign you in and give you an instant access account. So after the session's over, either in here if we have time, or if not, out in the hall, we have the magic button. We can just put you in. So everybody in here that wants to will be able to get right in and start playing with this. So I'm going to actually set up a microcloud right now. I'm going to switch over to my laptop, and I'm going to take it from the compressed file that's on, well, I copied it off of this USB key. There's an exact copy on here. On my local drive, I'm going to take it from uncompressing it to having a working microcloud. Goal is to do it in around 10 minutes. The timer that I put together actually operates a little bit faster than 10 minutes. But the way it works is this cloud, over the course of 10 minutes, is going to float across the screen over to that VM. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my laptop. So you can see here I have this Cloud Foundry VM TGZ file. This is a tar gzip file. I'm just going to double click it. You'll see it's going to take a few seconds to decompress it. And there we are. You'll see that ultimately, after it decompressed it, I have this directory called micro. In that micro directory, I've got a VMDK file and a VMX. I'm going to go ahead and double-click on the VMX. You'll also notice that the version of Fusion that I'm using might look a little bit different to you. That's because it's Fusion 4. So that's supposed to be, I think it's going to be out pretty soon. So this would be your experience now, whether you're using Player, Fusion, or Workstation. Key thing, do not upgrade the hardware. Just leave it as is. You'll be much happier. So you'll notice I haven't had to do anything. I didn't have to change any settings. I didn't have to give it more memory or change anything at all about this. I just double-clicked it and launched it. It works the same way on Fusion 3, by the way. And this is what you get prompted with. So you'll see that it says that it does have connectivity to the network, and it's telling you that it's not configured. So you want to configure it. So you're going to hit 1. Now it asks you for a password. This password that it's asking you for is the password into this VM. So just make it something that you can remember. In this case, I'm going to go with a pretty easy to remember password. So change the password. Ideally, you will pick DHCP when you're configuring it, assuming you have a DHCP somewhere where you can actually get an address. There's also an entry here for proxy. So the idea being, if you're on a network that has a proxy, you can put it in here. We don't have a proxy that I know about on the network I'm connected to, so I'm going to shoot for for no proxy entry. You'll also see now it's asking me for something called the Micro Cloud Foundry configuration token. This is why you need that Cloud Foundry account that I mentioned before, specifically for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop out of the virtual machine. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go over here. And you'll see that this is actually cloudfoundry.com/micro. I'm going to go over here. You'll see that I have the install, login, and download. This is where you want to log in, and I'll do. And accept the agreement. Now, in my case, I already have tokens assigned to me. You can have up to 5 of them. So in my case, I'm going to actually use the demo token, and I'm going to regenerate a token. So you'd need to do this if you're setting up one from scratch and you want to reassign it. You'll also notice that the token is in human-readable words, and so basic pen carry. So I will go over here, and I will put in basic pen carry. And now it's going to update its DNS. So what we're actually doing is talking up through Cloud Foundry and assigning the IP address that this virtual machine has obtained with a DNS entry. And it doesn't matter if this is an internal or external IP. It's just associating that DNS entry with the IP address. That's what's going to allow us to talk to this virtual machine that is a cloud in the same way that we talk to, say, the cloudfoundry.com public service. So it'll take a few more seconds, you'll see. And then we'll be nearly finished with the microcloud setup. There are a couple of other things that we'll do. In fact, as we move a bit more through the demo, you will get to see some of the commands you can actually do against the microcloud. So you'll see now it's doing the actual install. It can actually take up to the full 5 minutes. I don't think it'll take that long in our case. And I think we're still doing okay on time, by the way. We'll switch back so you guys can see the progress. So that's our cloud still moving along right now. It's at just over 6 minutes. There we go. So you'll see it just finished the setup. It says installation complete, and we'll do the press return. And that's it. I now actually have a working microcloud. You'll see up here towards the top the identity. So that's the URL you use. You'll see that's the admin ID, and there is the IP address that it's gotten. You'll see this is a 10.32. So what I can do, well, I'll switch over real quick and show you. I can use VMC, which is the Ruby command line, and I can do a target API. And you'll see that I'm now talking to this API endpoint. So this is where I've actually attached to this cloud. I could do the same thing and attach to cloudfoundry.com by typing VMC target api.cloudfoundry.com. In my case, I'm going to now do a VMC register and create an account on my microcloud. Yeah, I think I can make it bigger. Hopefully everybody can see that now. I'm going to put in an email address. password. Now I have a user. And so now I can do VMC login. And now I've authenticated, so I can do things now like VMC apps. Oops. Let's roll that up a little bit. There we go. You can see I don't have any applications deployed right now. So we'll switch back. And you'll see we're right at the roughly 9-minute mark, and I have a working microcloud now, and I'm going to do something with it in a few minutes, don't worry. But it really is that easy. You saw me do it from scratch. So what I was doing was, with that token, was linking up that dynamic updating DNS piece of that microcloud up. That was the magic step where it said updating DNS. That's what happens in the microcloud. We built that in, again, to make things easier than trying to take the open source code and creating an SSH tunnel and doing all of those things just to be able to use one of these clouds. We wanted it to act like a normal cloudfoundry.com site. So actually using the microcloud, once you have it installed, you can do really anything you want. It's not incredibly complicated. I realize that everybody here may not be a coder. In fact, most of you probably aren't, but I'm betting most of you have written a script or a batch file or a bash file or something else at some point. You can literally use any text editor you want, and you can very, very easily put together a basic application that will allow you to see what Cloud Foundry does and how it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put together, and actually they kind of somewhat, when they converted my slide, I think they messed up the code here just a little bit, but I'm going to actually write some code and deploy it into my little cloud. And I'll explain the 6 or so lines of code as I put them in when I switch over. I'm going to open the command window, and you'll see I've already actually followed some of these steps. You'll see me follow the rest in a minute. And I think, yeah, here we go. So I'm going to do another time demo. And this time, we're going to write an application and push it in. So we'll start our little cloud floating over. And I'll swap over here. So in this case, I'm using an editor called TextMate. You could use TextEdit on the Mac. You could use Notepad. You could use Emacs. They're all just anything that can write text is an acceptable thing to write some Ruby code in this case. Or if you're somebody that's played with Java or something like that, you could fire up Spring STS and do effectively the same thing in that. You can also write in Node, or there are literally dozens of languages and things that you can use. My preference is Ruby. So to do a really basic app, you have to put in this case, I'm doing require Ruby gems. This is an entry that's saying that I want to use a series of libraries, and the libraries are wrapped around what's called Ruby gems, and that when I enter another requirement, it should look at Ruby gems as the option. And you'll see I'm doing Sinatra. Sinatra is a tiny web server. That's all it is. It allows you to use very easy commands to create an application that is web ready. And then this line is basically saying when a request comes to Sinatra at the / so literally the root of the web entry, do something. And so in our case, what we're going to do is we're going to, assuming I get this all right, we're going to assign a variable called host. And we're going to say this is equal to VMC_app_host. I think that's the right entry. So In each of these, when you run an application inside of any of the Cloud Foundry things, the way we communicate with the program inside in a clean way is by injecting environment variables into that application's running space. So that's how, if we create a service on here, let's say we create a MySQL service, or if we do a Redis, or you name it, we're going to shove credentials into the environment variables. In this case, we also supply other information in those environment variables. In this case, this is the actual IP address of the host that it's running on. And if we do this, I'll make sure I have this right in a second. So now I have a second variable I've added, which is the port. Same thing, it's grabbing an environment variable and it's assigning it to a variable called port. So it's saying, look inside the environment for a variable called VMC app port, and whatever that value is, make it to this variable called port. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a variable called display. Hello, VMworld, like this. So what I'm doing here is this is just literally a string of characters. It says hello VMworld. And this funny little thing that I just did here with this little hash and these brackets, this is to say, don't print this, take whatever the value is for this and put it here. So what we're really doing is we're saying display the IP address that was at its environment variable and put it here. And then we're going to put, yes, my apologies. Oops. Okay. Maybe I can't with that. Let's see. Font. That's the command I'm using. Just have to do it manually. Is that better? We'll do port. So now we have that, we have that assigned. And then lastly, we're actually going to say to actually spit it out. And then we end so that it knows that it's the end of the app. I'm going to save this. As an RB file because it's Ruby and that's the ending that they use. So I have a file now that I've built. Here's my running microcloud. And here's my terminal. So if we look here, this is that VMwRB file that we just made. So I do VMC push, and we'll give it a name. In this case, we'll just do VMW, and we'll hit enter. Just take the default, and you'll see that this is the URL that it's asking if I want to use. I don't know if I can do that or not. I think I can. See it detected. So this is where the VMC client actually detected the application. I'm just taking the defaults, by the way. I'm not typing anything at all. I'm just hitting the return key. And it says that it started. So what I can do is I can take this URL here, go over here, and paste it. And you can see it's talking to loopback. But you can also see that it's running on this port. And it's that easy to create an application. I could take this same application, just simply change the target to cloudfoundry.com without changing anything else at all. Push this up on the cloudfoundry.com and it will work. And you can also... So you can see we have the little screensaver on our microcloud. I can also do this. I can do VMC instances. And then I'll do VMW. And we'll say 4. I now have 4 instances of this application running inside that single microcloud. And so now as I hit refresh, if you look at that port number, you see it's changing. So this is a full microcloud, scalable, the whole 9 yards built in. Go back over to the terminal. I can also do VMC apps. Oops, if I spell apps correctly. You'll see it gives me the information about my cloud. So let's say I wanted to use MySQL on here. I could do VMC, create -service, MySQL. I have a MySQL server now available to me that easily. So the idea is that you can literally do development, you can build applications, you can literally play with this in an environment that's just your laptop, and you have full control over it. From the developer side, developers have the ability to fire this up, work on their code, learn about how a cloud works, and then ultimately hand it off, say, to a QA team. The QA team could then run it in their cloud instance, make sure it works, and then the same code, same commands can deploy it into a production environment. And to scale it, you just saw me do a scale even inside of the microcloud. Obviously, I'm still on the same piece of equipment, but in a bigger environment, you would have many, many machines, and it will automatically disperse it and spread it across all of those machines. But the idea is for all of that to be the same seamless experience across all of them. I'm going to switch back here. You'll see we're still right within that 10 minutes. That's the 10-minute mark right there. By the way, after the presentation, I have a box right here. Probably have enough for everyone to get a microcloud on a USB stick, which literally it is that very file that you saw me use at the start of the presentation. And that's it. So, questions? Yes? What's that? You can, it's based on the same code. So if you write an application that works on this, you would just say VMC target, point over there, and you'd push it there instead. But it has to be running, it has to be based on Cloud Foundry, the code base. So you can deploy the open source code behind your firewall today, and we will ultimately, sometime next year, have a commercially supported version of Cloud Foundry that you can deploy behind your firewall. We also have the public cloud version that's free as well. You get 2 gigs of memory space, and you can push your applications to that. And it should be the exact same commands. Once again, exact same process, but it's on the public cloud. And you can even scale out your application there as long as you stay within that 2 gigabyte limit. But you get free MySQL database, Postgres, we have RabbitMQ, MongoDB, all of these databases and things. And even if you're an admin, getting to spin up something like MongoDB and just play around with it or read the docs and use a few commands. They have some interactive tutorials and things that are like web-driven and stuff. Being able to play with things without having to spend hours installing it and setting it up, it's pretty nice. And again, you can use a ton of different languages. There are tutorials online. There's all sorts of documentation, blog posts. In my opinion, I've used Ruby and PowerShell. Ruby's no harder than anything you've seen in PowerShell, not by a long shot, in my opinion. And if you're feeling really adventuresome, you could use something like Node.js and play with that. That's JavaScript, and that will run in all of these instances as well.
So just one point, we're not guaranteeing that microcloud will have all the capabilities of enterprise version, or vice versa. We're not making any guarantees.
Right.
I'm just thinking it just starts out like this, and then it eventually develops some kind of full-blown product that needs to be used.
Sure. So, questions? More questions? Yes, and we have mics up here, by the way, if you, depending. Go ahead.
So I have 2 questions. First of all, as I was trying to install this DNS registration check coming out.
So optimally, I would try switching the, in fact, I'll show you what if you do run into that DNS issue, while not ideal, you can go in here. Yes, that would be a good idea. Okay, so you can switch over here to the settings, and under network adapter, and this will be, you can set the setting, whether it's Workstation or Fusion, switch it to NAT. And when you do, shut the whole thing down, switch it to NAT, reconfigure, and when you reconfigure under NAT, usually that solves the problem.
Second question is that when I deploy Rails app, that you use a MySQL that active record. How do I set up the database configuration?
It automatically will wire it for you.
So I'm not creating my database YAML file.
I believe you don't. If you have a working copy locally of that Rails app, just on a local physical, say, setup that you've used before, you can literally take that set of directories and shove it into the microcloud or up onto cloudfoundry.com, and it should just work. Okay. Glad to help you after the session if you want. Other questions? Okay. Well, if you're interested, have lots of USB keys up here, and glad to put you into the cloudfoundry.com.